Hello and welcome to Bloke on the Range. Now, it turns out that recently The Daily Show did a couple of little spots on gun laws in Switzerland. This has driven us a lot of traffic to one of our old videos about the range that shoots over the road at Brunnesau. Thanks for the influx of "that's so dangerous" comments, guys. Anyway, we've also had a lot of people requesting us to do a good synopsis of how Swiss gun law works. And we did one in an FAQ video like 2 and a bit years ago, and no one watches that anymore.
And it's covered by gunfire as well.
Yeah. We've got better equipment now. We're not covered by gunfire. We're just freezing up in the chap's hayloft up here. But we have tea to keep us warm, luckily. So, perfect opportunity to discuss how Swiss gun law works. The first thing we're going to do is explain the general case for someone who is permanently resident here. So either a Swiss citizen resident in Switzerland, or someone like us who are immigrants and have permanent residency, the equivalent of a green card. We'll give a little note later on about how it works for others, but we'll just keep it this way to keep it clear. And there's something that particularly irked us. Thank you. Something that particularly irked us about these two videos, because generally it presents Swiss shooting in an extremely positive light. But then there's a little bit of gonzo journalism going on in there, hiding behind the "it's satire" excuse.
We do get it. Yeah, it is funny.
Yeah, but when you put up a graphic with a load of misleading statements on it and claim in the second video that they are Swiss firearms regulations, when a lot of them aren't, there's some that are just not at all. They seem to be buzzwords from US discourse on this.
He went off like a rocket when he saw that.
I went off like a rocket. The Facebook people will have seen me go off like a rocket on that. But yes, although the video is overall positive, the presenting certain things that are wrong really gets me. So,
considering the amount of coverage that video got, felt it was important. Use it as a vehicle, as we said, to represent the actual laws and to correct the misinterpretation that has occurred.
Yeah. Just a little note on the comments. Politics sucks 99.9% of the fun out of everything. So we'd be really grateful if you could refrain from political discussions. There's plenty of forums on which you can do that. It doesn't need to be under this video. This video is about the mechanics of how the Swiss law works as of January 2019, which is the same as it's worked since 2008, more or less. It might change in the future. That might be blocked, and how much changes we have to see. We don't want to go into the modifications to the Swiss gun law due to the EU. It gets a bit politics again, and it's not finalised. We will worry about that as and when it is finalised, whatever the outcome of the referendum is. So, like America, in Switzerland, the point of control is the point of acquisition. It's not like the UK or France or the Netherlands or Germany, where there's a permit to possess. I mean, the UK really doesn't sort of distinguish the two. You have a permit to possess with authority to acquire. And the Netherlands, you had a separate authority to acquire and authority to possess. It is a point of acquisition system, and it applies to all transfers. There's no exceptions for transfers between individuals. So basically, firearms fall into 4 categories, which are...
Category 1 is all firearms are considered antiques, and the cut-off date for that is 1870.
So it's a bit stricter than some other European countries.
So, like this big bugger here, I'm allowed to grunt because this is really huge. 1842/59, if you're interested. So clearly, pre-cut-off date. There's no record of this. It's just transfer person to person or in a shop. You have to be over 18, but that's it. There's no provision to say that you have checked that the person who has bought this is over 18. It's just your own discretion.
Yep. And it's just an absolute cut-off date. There are very few centre-fire revolvers that will fall into that, but there's a bunch of rim-fire revolvers.
Yeah, pin-fire, probably
pin-fire, some centre-fire, some centre-fire military rifles.
If you get into that grey zone, it's best to have documentation to back up the origins of your firearm.
Yeah.
If it's in the 1850s or whatever.
Yeah,
no problem.
Doesn't matter. So, for instance, the 1851 Feldstutzer, they were only made in 1851. There's no question.
Yeah, that's clear cut.
So,
Then number 2 is firearms which are free, let's say.
as to say that they are not subject to a pre-authorization, that they are not subject to any form of permission, except the transaction has to be registered with the police.
You've got it.
I've got it. So here we have, as an example, this is a 1907 War Office rifle. This is a 22 trainer. This is exempted from requirement to have a permit because it can be used for target shooting or hunting.
Or bunnies.
Both.
Yep.
It falls under both exceptions. Basically, bolt action 22s are free, but the transaction has to be transmitted to the police. And what you do is there's a standard contract of sale, and you send a copy of that to the police, and in principle they keep a track of where everything is. In principle. The issue is that pre-2008 there was no obligation to do this with private sales at all. So there's a lot of stuff that was never registered, was never in the system, so the database is out of date. There was a voluntary registration drive in 2009, which was presented as compulsory, but it wasn't.
And didn't go well.
No, compliance was...
Well, you have no idea.
We have no
it
idea.
Anyway.
But let's just say that that a lot of stuff turns up that never went through an official piece of paperwork. So, concretely, what falls within this is Swiss military bolt actions.
Like this one?
Yep. Anything that can be used for hunting or target shooting that isn't automatically in a higher category because it's a lever action or a semi-auto or a pump.
Yep.
And bunny killers. Single shot 6mm flowbar pistols for
shotguns too.
Bunny killers. Well, that's hunting.
No, okay.
Shotguns, non-pump, non-semi, non-underlever shotguns.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to acquire something like this, all you have to do is, if you're in a shop, they will ask you to formally prove that you're not a prohibited person. And you can do this with either a criminal record declaration, which you apply for by post, and it comes in 48 hours. It costs 20 francs, which is about $20 at the current exchange rate. So that one of them less than 3 months old, a firearms acquisition permit from the next category up that we'll discuss in a minute, a valid hunting permit, or a European firearms permit, which is basically a firearms passport that is less than 5 years old.
Yep.
Now, in a private sale, there is an all due care requirement, and you are, if you're not sure about the person, you are authorised to request them to provide one of those things, but there's no firm obligation to do it. It's when you read the wording of the law, it's more a recommendation. You'd be mad not to, frankly. Yeah. Because you're the one that's going to get into trouble if something goes wrong.
Well, I think all due care is pretty much sort of the cornerstone of
the entire
firearm etiquette.
Yeah,
it comes back again and again.
Yeah, I think the main reason that the Swiss military bolt actions are in this category and not in the next one up is that there's so many of them around. Granddaddies, great granddaddies, fathers, that it would be onerous and would criminalise little old ladies.
Yeah, who just have them in the attic, whatever.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much
in the free category.
Now a little interesting note on the free category. Once you get into non-military bolt action, sort of sniper rifle type bolt actions, because the technical difference between Remy 700 hunting rifle and Remy 700
range rifle
is 0, but the legal distinction is actually, does it have a folding stock or not, or collapsing stock? Because a Remy 700 police with a conventional fixed stock is free, but you put it in a tactical stock and you need the next one up, which is
licensed firearms.
Well, let's start with the bottom end of the scale, shall we?
Okay.
So we
How
have.
dare you say that's bottom end of the scale?
I love this rifle. I covet this rifle. So foreign military bolt-action rifles are not exempted, so need a firearms acquisition permit.
It's a real pain, to be honest, but it's the way it is.
It is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
There's no. I mean, even though the Swiss gun law is generally relatively sensible, there's certain illogical things. For instance, we got a K31 here
yep.
and a MAS 36. Objectively, there's no difference.
No.
But they've been put in different categories for the reasons that we've discussed already.
Because it is so, and
it is so.
Suck it up.
Okay. Anything semi-auto, anything built as a semi-auto,
Yep.
or a Swiss service rifle down converted from full auto.
Swiss being the important one.
Yes. So this here is a Sturmgewehr 57 that was full auto when it was in service, and
now it's not.
It's been blocked at semi-auto.
It's got a little white flag there just to show that theoretically, at least, it's been down converted.
Yep, when it has.
Yes. Sniff.
Yep. Anything lever, slide action.
Yep.
Don't
have any
semi-auto. Yeah, don't have any of those. And any handgun other than the aforementioned bunny killers.
Yep. So this Manual M73 is licensed. So I have to apply for my. Well, we'll go into that later. How we do
we'll
it.
do this now.
Okay.
It's a good opportunity.
So see this in the shop. I say I want it. I can't just go unless I've been prepared. I can't just go and buy it. So I am going to need, first of all, to get my police
criminal
record check. That's a piece of paper, flimsy, comes in 2 days. Then
it's good for 3 months.
Yeah, good for 3 months. Then I fill in. We'll come to that. I will fill in my acquisition permit, which will allow me to buy up to 3 firearms in one, or from one person or one business.
At one time.
At one time, yeah.
Now, there's no obligation when you do this to say what the gun is you want to buy. You can just fill in, I want 1 or 2 or 3, and that's it. And I know a lot of people who have these preemptively. That they will always keep one in their pocket at any time, just in case they happen upon a.
They cost $50, and there are people that they apply for one every 2 months, just to have one on in case something comes up. Yeah, and then don't need to wait.
And they last quite a long time. They can be extended up to, I think it's 9 months in total.
6
validity.
months plus 3.
And people even get these to make buying ammunition easier, and we'll come on to ammunition in a minute. But
anyway, so this license comes through. I now have all I need. The acquisition permit is all I need from now on. ID, obviously, but you have that on you. Go to the personal shop, hand over the money. The permit comes back from the police in 3 copies. And this will then you fill in the exact details of the gun, serial number, caliber. You sign it, gets countersigned by the seller. 1 copy you keep, 1 copy the seller keeps, and the other copy gets sent to your cantonal police.
Yep. And that's where the record keeping is, and any guns that have been acquired before all the laws came in, they make it into the system at that point. And quite a lot of people, older guys who had stuff from back in the day, that they bought in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or whatever, they're a bit worried about this, but the police are quite insistent that no, it's not a problem. We understand that there's a lot of stuff not in the system. We quite like it to get in the system, so have no worries about it.
I mean, eventually, when quite a lot of these things, they're in private collections, effectively. And when these people pass away or give it up, it all gets given to a gun shop, which will write it into the system. Yeah. So it's a non-problem.
It gets in the system there. The database is going to be incomplete forever.
Yep.
It's never ultimately going to be complete. So that's basically the bulk of firearms people buy, aside from hunting guns and specific sport shooting, shoulder-fired guns. There's a record-keeping obligation for 10 years whether it's a contract or an acquisition permit.
Yep.
Other than that, that's about it. And the last category is the exemption permits for things like sound moderators. They go on them. Another strange one is laser aiming devices.
Yeah,
so you can't
big no-no.
You can't duct tape a laser pen, laser pointer onto your gun here. Laser pointers, night vision devices, full auto. Full auto. Down conversions from full auto to semi-auto, other than
foreign.
Other than Sturmgewehr 90s and Sturmgewehr 57s.
Yep.
And these permits are generally available to collectors. You need a formal justification, which is normally collection. For everything up to this point, there's been no formal justification required. There's on the form for the
normal acquisition
permit, there's reason for acquisition, if not sport shooting,
collecting and
what's
the other one?
Hunting.
Could be hunting. Yeah. Anyway, so that covers. If you're not in those three categories, I don't know what you'd write, really.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's possibly to catch people out who are stupid. A bit like when you go to the States, were you a member of the Nazi Party, or have you been involved in terrorist activities or something? It's to catch the people out who are genuinely stupid enough to
wear a boo,
to write something like that. So, I mean, that's basically it. For the exemption permits, it varies from canton to canton. Each canton has a different policy on it. They're stricter or less strict. That's how it is.
Yep.
So that's the situation for people who live here with permanent residency or citizens who live here.
Yep.
Now, Swiss citizens who live in foreigners who live here but haven't got permanent residency yet, as we were for a while, and foreigners who live in foreign.
Few more hoops to jump through.
Few more hoops to jump through. There's then only the free category, so the one between the antiques and the normal permit falls away, and everything that's not antique requires a permit. To get one, you have to prove that the country in which you live, if you don't live here, or the country you're from, authorises you to acquire firearms. There are cases, I know...
Not any particular firearm, just firearms.
Yeah, if you read the law strictly, it should be the firearm, but it's generally applied. It's generally applied more liberally. There are some authorities who will be a bit more flexible. If you jump through a few hoops and prove that you're a high-level Olympic shooter or something, that I know of people who are foreigners who don't need this proof, but they've managed to they've justified it another way. There's a certain amount of flexibility for genuine.
Well, I've had the through my own personal experience. I used to get this letter through France, and then all of a sudden they stopped doing this, offering the service. It was just a letter saying, "Mr. Blah blah is allowed to."
We have no objections to him owning firearms.
Fine, and that was once a year. I'd get that, and then they stopped doing it because France.
Probably the person issuing them changed, and the new person didn't want to.
Anyway, there's no possibility of obtaining this, and so I contacted the police. And they said, "Well, we can basically jump this step if you can provide us an official letter from a governmental letter saying we are no longer able to provide this document." Got given that, and basically they waived it.
That was awfully nice of them.
Which it was.
Yeah. What I used to do was get a UK visitor's permit, which had some of my friends' firearms on it, which actually meant that I could shoot practical shotgun in the UK, because in the UK, a shotgun, repeating shotgun or semi-auto shotgun holding more than three cartridges needs to be on a firearm certificate, not a shotgun certificate. It can't be loaned. You have to be named on it has to be your gun, or you have to have.
Swiss gun law.
Sorry. Anyway, I got these visitors permits, and thank you very much, James, if you're watching, for organising them for me for a number of years, and that was accepted without question as a justification. So yeah. The next one is, if you've got guns, you need to feed them, and there's a lot of completely incorrect information out there.
Yeah.
We get asked on a fairly regular basis, But I thought ammunition was illegal to own in Switzerland.
No. Couldn't function.
Whoa. There's a nice little box of Factory 32 Smith & Wesson long. You couldn't function as a channel. You couldn't function as a shooter
with those.
So, commercial ammunition is basically the requirements are the same as for acquiring a non-permit firearm.
Yep.
So you need to prove that you could, in principle, own a firearm. Mm-hmm. So it's a criminal record declaration not older than 3 months. A
used permit
not older than 2 years,
yep.
A European firearms pass not older than 5 years, or a valid hunting permit. And if I didn't mention valid hunting permit earlier, I'm sorry, I should have done.
I think you did.
I think I did. Anyway, and then you can buy commercial ammunition. We can mail order it.
Yep, as much as you want.
There is no restriction to it.
Ammunition components are the same.
Yeah, ammunition components are the same.
Yep.
So fresh cases, I mean, used ones are treated as scrap metal. But if you were to buy fresh cases or bullets or powder or primers, it's treated the same as ammunition, same requirement. And this is the reason that sometimes people will apply for an acquisition permit that they have no intention to use, because if you haven't had an acquisition permit for a number of years,
kind of fall.
They drop out. Once they're
yeah.
2 years old, they drop away. And then you've got to keep spending 20 francs every 3 months if you want to keep a valid criminal record declaration. So people will spend 50 francs and get something that's valid for 2 years.
Yeah, usually you don't need to do this every time you buy ammunition or components. Usually the store will keep they'll keep a copy of whatever you handed in to them, and as long as that's still valid,
yep.
There's no need to submit it every time you put an order in.
Yeah, in fact, they'd rather you didn't, because it just causes more paperwork for them.
And because you lose track, so you just phone up and say, I ordered stuff with you. Is my stuff still, my license or whatever, still in your database valid? And yeah, fine.
Yeah, do it.
Carry on.
Easy. Now, where confusion comes in is that there's ammunition and there's ammunition. We can't buy surplus GP11 here, as in 7.5 by 55, unless it's re-imported.
Yeah.
From foreign. They don't surplus it onto the Swiss market.
Yeah.
What you are not technically allowed to do is take the Swiss service ammunition away from the ranges where you buy it. That they are obliged to buy it back off you, and this is largely economic. Yeah. It's subsidised. So GP11 on the ranges, for use on the ranges at official events, whether it be training or competition, it's sold to the clubs at 35 cents a round. Equivalent commercial ammunition is a franc plus, and it's nowhere near as good.
Usually you pay about, for me here it's 50 cents a round.
Yeah, because the clubs are allowed to charge more, which is then used for funding the club. It subsidises the club maintenance of the targetry and heating and what have you.
Yeah.
Some clubs sell it at cost, which is always nice.
Good, yeah.
Ooh, not 50 cents.
You should remember those
35.
ones. Yeah. I mean, competitions, there's hardly ever any reason to take it home because you get given exactly what you need.
Yeah, and you are under an obligation to give it back. And for the federally sponsored competition, so the obligatory shooting, if you don't use all the sighters you bought, because you have to buy sighters for that, they want to count them all back in. And I know of people who got into horrible trouble cheating this.
Got one left in the pocket
for like one round or something. Yeah. You just don't go there. Feldschießen, there's no sighters anyway, but you just don't go there. That's I believe Fribourg police often like to stop people around Feldschießen days and check they haven't got any of the subsidised ammunition on them.
Don't breathalyse them.
No, but the last one, which is where all this nonsense comes from, is that a Swiss soldier used to be issued what was called Taschenmunition, or Munition de Poche, literally pocket ammunition or pouch ammunition, and this was a little sardine can or spam can, depending on the era, with a number of rounds that varied depending on the era. The idea being that in case of war,
you're ready to go.
You have enough ammunition for self-defense purposes on the way to your muster point. Now, after a few incidents involving the Taschenmunition, this was withdrawn. So people don't get given that ammunition anymore, but there's commercially available ammunition that fits. Sturmgewehr 90s are in 223 Remington, and the 57s are in 7.5 55. They run it. They run it fine.
9mm is 9mm.
But yes, the authorities were rather unhappy about a couple of tragic incidents for the people involved, of course. But that was happening with federally owned ammunition. The press got worked up about it, and so that's the status of ammunition.
Yeah, I think it pretty much covers the Swiss law as such.
Right, now let's go to this graphic.
He's been waiting for this.
Shooting guns without the fear of getting shot? This is where America should be. All we need to do is keep ammo separate and have universal criminal and mental background checks. Have extremely strict open carry laws, justification for ownership, send written requests to authorities, and basically just change our entire gun culture. We can do that, right?
Okay, I have my notes. So let's go through this in roughly the order that they pop up. But remember, I'm going to reiterate this, that he states in the second video that these are Swiss regulations.
I learned that when it comes to gun culture, Switzerland has a few more regulations than America. And thanks to these gun regulations and strict ammunition control, Switzerland has a murder rate of nearly 0. Switzerland has a few more regulations than America. And thanks to these gun regulations and strict ammunition controls.
But what they've done is they've inserted some things in that are standard American gun policy talking points in there that are not an issue, not a thing here. Yeah. Keep ammo separate.
Well, it depends.
Depends.
Yeah.
At home, I don't recommend anyone does this, but at home there's no requirement either way, provided a child cannot get hold of a loaded gun or a gun and appropriate ammunition. One or other has to be locked away. That's the only.
Any sane person will have them in a safe, but legally, that's the only requirement.
Yeah, to keep unauthorised people away from them, and that seems to have been largely interpreted in the case law as if a child can get at both. So if you have a carry permit, which is something we haven't got onto because it's a big topic later, I mean, because it's not, carry permits aren't a big thing, we'll get into that in a minute, then you're carrying a loaded gun, but we'll get onto that.
So that was at home. When you're on the range, it's the same as everywhere else.
Yep.
You load up on the firing point.
When transporting a gun, it must be kept separate from the ammunition, and you can't have a loaded magazine. So magazines are always empty when transporting to the range. Guns are not loaded. If it's loaded, you are carrying. You're not transporting. There's a legal distinction. I think that covers that one.
Yep.
Universal background check. Mostly true.
That's what's written.
That's what's written. Okay. Now, we've already explained the all due care thing for the non-permit permit guns. But
what he says is...
With mental health check.
With mental health check, yeah.
Have universal criminal and mental background checks.
No requirement. No, it's not a thing. Absolutely not true. False. There is no mental health requirement, and this is where it turns into gonzo journalism. That he's saying something over the top, over a graphic that says these are Swiss requirements, and he's saying something that's not a Swiss requirement. That irks me. I'm a stickler for getting facts right.
And this background check we've already mentioned. It's the hand your 20 francs at the post office, fill in your ID, and you get it in 2 days. And even that, you're allowed one strike on your record for a non-violent, non-firearms related. So an extremely heavy speeding fine.
Yes, so that counts. An extremely heavy speeding fine is a criminal offence here, or running a red light when it's dangerous.
Yeah. So, but yes, it doesn't require to have a clean record.
Yeah,
you can have something. Well, I won't say minor, but non-violent and non-firearm related. Just keep it at that.
Yeah. So it does mean that 2 red lights getting flashed by a red light camera twice in a 10-year period. Oh yeah, things fall off your record after 10 years, irrespective of what they are. So the next one. The next one is a real head scratcher here. Extremely strict open carry laws. What? I mean, this is mixing up transporting and carrying, I think. And it's mixing up. When you're at an official event, they don't like people having covered guns going into the event or at the event, because they like to see that the bolt's back. Or on a 57, there's no bolt hold open, so they like to see that the loaded chamber indicator is down.
Little thing on top there.
See our earlier video.
Now you'll see, well, in these videos, you'll see, especially the second one when they're in the Eidgenössischen Schützenfest. No, anyway, you'll see there's no covered guns. They're all on shoulders, in their hands, in the buggy, for one. But they're all visible.
The rest of the time, there's nothing stopping you legally from carrying a visible gun like that. But the recent advice from the police, and it's come through the collectors' organisations, is that if you're in an urban public place, it is best to cover up. There was a case recently of someone walking through Zurich railway station with an uncovered. It was only K31 or something, but someone called the cops, and it just caused hassle. The guy was not doing anything wrong, but legally. But the official advice now is to cover them up if you're in an urban area.
Obviously, if you're in uniform, if you go, if you go to Thun, which is the big recruit school, when you've got the waves of new recruits, you've got Sturmgewehr 90s poking out of every bag or on the shoulder and slung.
Although they've got the bolts removed. These days they didn't used to.
But they're there. They're not covered. Pistols are, if they've got them. I've never seen them out.
I've seen people with people in uniform with holster pistols, and going to historic shooting events. I've seen guys wearing a P210 in the old leather holster on their head, or just slung around their body. You see that.
That's shooting. It's competition.
That's going to and from a competition.
Anyway, it's a bit of a sidetrack from carry, perhaps.
Now actually carry itself, it's California carry. That's to say you've got to have good reason. Normally that's you're working private security, and if you're working private security and you're uniformed, you will be carrying open. If you're working private security non-uniformed, you will be carrying concealed. And if you've got another justification for having a carry permit, you will be carrying concealed. There's no question. But you've got to prove need, and it's not easily given. It's an extremely safe society. So unless you've had a specific threat against you, you're not going to be able to prove.
And it's not given to you without training either.
Oh yeah, there is compulsory training. There's a shooting test as well, and there's a multiple choice exam on the law in the use of potentially lethal force. I think one of these days I might see if we can do a video on the shooting training process. See if we can get through the training the shooting test without practice, because practice is akin to cheating.
I've got to make that into something.
Absolutely. And talk to Armin or something, and get him to put us through it without training. See if we can do it. Justification for ownership.
We covered that.
We covered that. That is not the case.
Nope.
I mean, sport shooting and collecting covers basically
everything.
Every reason why realistically you would want to own. The only proper justification is for the stuff that you need the exemption permit for. So that one's totally wrong. I mean, just mind-blowingly wrong.
Yes.
Send written request only for the stuff that you need a formal permit for. For all the hunting and sporting stuff, as we discussed, no request.
And even we were referring earlier to the contract between two people. There is a form. We don't have to use it.
You don't have to use it.
I mean, a piece of A4. As long as the details of both people are there and what was exchanged, that's it.
All the official form serves to do is to make sure that people put down all the information that is required in the law, and not miss anything out. That's it's just something helpful to fulfil the requirements. have a clean record. Well, we discussed that.
Yep.
Not 100% true, mostly true. Gun education / proper training. Well, there's no formal requirement for that.
No.
It's just within the shooting world that the chap from the Daily Show was in there. Then there is training on the ranges, in the clubs. But if you're outside that world, there's no formal training or anything. There's commercial ranges, and they offer courses. And I would imagine that most of them will insist on at least seeing that you're not going to brass up their range.
That's the most important thing. You're not going to cause unnecessary expense.
Yeah, damage.
Damage.
So I imagine someone coming with little or no experience to a commercial range, they're going to at least be watched and offered training, offered a bit of minor training.
Yeah, but I mean, because you said people inheriting their K31s from Gramps.
Or Sturmgewehr 57 or whatever. Little sidetrack onto inheritance here. If you inherit someone's collection, there's a specific set of rules, and you basically you list all the things that need to go on a permit, even if it's an exemption permit, the special permits, and you apply for a Waffenerwerbschein, the normal acquisition permit, or exemption permit, depending on if it is exemption permit stuff on there, and send it to the police. And it's not 3 guns per permit; it's just the list.
Yeah, you know, it's a bulk.
It's your inheritance, and you've got a surprising amount of time to do it. Something like 6. I think it's short of the exemption permits. I'll put a note on the bottom. I'll look up the time limit, but it is a number of months in each case. Call your mum.
Nothing to do with guns, but call your mum. Deserves it.
Always pull out.
Slightly gun related, because if you don't, you're rapidly going to find your gun budget reduced. Other forms of contraception are available.
Unloaded when not in use. We've discussed this already. Not strictly true at home, and I guess if you have a concealed carry permit or then obviously it's in use. This next one is another what head scratcher. Where did this come from? 2-week waiting period. There is no waiting period in Swiss law. None whatsoever.
Right.
And none. False, totally false.
The only waiting period is the physical time it takes you to do the paperwork.
Which you can do at any time upstream if you want to. Yeah. And if you're at one of the gun shows where there is representation from the local constabulary,
which there always is.
Yeah. Well, at least for Lausanne, there's Canton.
The two big shows.
Yeah. There's Canton Vaud. There's Canton Neuchâtel and Valley. Was it Valley or was it Geneva? Anyway, it's Vaud, Neuchâtel, and one other. They will issue permits on the spot. So, I mean, basically, the Swiss system is a very not instant background check system.
You have to have all the paperwork, as I said.
Yeah.
To get that acquisition permit instantly at the gun show, you need your ID, you need your criminal record check. Yeah.
But they will issue a permit on the spot to those. Those of us in Canton Bern have to anticipate, how many sellers am I going to want to buy from? Do I need 1, 2?
Yeah, it's awful for gun shows because you've got hundreds of sellers and you might want one gun from every single one of them, so you might need 10 licenses.
Which they will issue you. It's a shall issue system. It's a shall issue system. If you've got the right to acquire one gun, you've got the right to acquire all the guns. So it's not an issue. The next one, keep ammo separate. We've done that already.
Yep.
Traceability of arms. Well, for transactions, as we discussed, post 2008 transactions, yes.
Yep.
There is a traceability law within EU Schengen for import-export. So sometimes we have to get guns import marked. I mean, we have a MAS 4956 coming from the States that will get import marked, and you can apply for exemptions for that for historically interesting pieces. The exemption, actually, tangent, is not for the arm; it's for you. So if you sell it, the seller would have to reapply for the exemption or get it import marked.
And the import mark is basically every dealer has the right to acquire the license to mark. And they each get given the code. and it has to be it's laser engraved somewhere. It doesn't have to be visible, which it never is. It'll be somewhere tucked under the wood, the Knox form, or in the side of a receiver or something, and that's it. And the engraver has to fill in the form with saying they have certified that they have marked that firearm, and that gets sent to the police. So it's not even like these horrible things we see on US firearms, made in Germany.
Oh, the old import marks. Oh no!
And the
importer's full name and address.
Exactly, importer's full name and address. It's just
horrible.
It's going to be, and there's also no requirement in size.
No,
as long as it can be, as it's on there.
Yeah.
So some of them you will need a microscope, or at least a.
I've got a 455 Smith & Wesson hand ejector where it's hidden by the crane.
Yeah. Basically, a microdot
practically
is
has to be legible.
Yeah,
and it's just CHE for Switzerland and then the four-digit code.
Yeah.
Some modern stuff, it's often just engraved on the receiver because.
Well, yeah, it doesn't matter then. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the historic stuff, they tend to hide it somewhere. And the last one is strict ammunition controls, and I think we've pretty much dealt with that. Define your definition of strict. I mean, certainly compared to the UK, with you have the right to acquire 600 22 rimfire and hold 1,000, and
well, the Dutch was the same.
The Dutch was much easier. It was 10 up to 10,000 primers and live rounds for stuff you own,
which goes. Well, yeah, it can go surprisingly quickly.
It can go surprisingly
when you
quickly.
count the components.
Yeah, if you're reloading and you're needing like small rifle, large rifle, small pistol, large pistol, well, that's 4,000 gone right there.
Yeah,
it goes quite quickly. But yes, define strict. Certainly in European terms, it's not. No. It's not strict at all on ammunition acquisition. But yeah. There you
pretty
go.
Much covers it. Are you feeling better now?
I've got that off my chest.
Good.
Thank you. I wonder if anyone will actually have survived this long, because this is long and I think pretty complete. Oh, one thing we haven't said. Oh, for the exemption permit stuff. So if you're a collector and you've got full auto or a Danker version from full auto, you have to have
a topic of importance.
A topic of future import in Bloke on the Range world. You have to have the breech block locked up, separate from the gun. You can't put the gun in the safe with the breech block in it. You have to have it separate and locked separately.
So you can't have it can't be in a locked in a compartment of the same safe.
I guess it could be because it's behind a separate key.
As long as it's in a separate key,
it has to be. It has
locked.
To be.
Yeah.
It has to be separate. Otherwise, the only requirement is stopping kids being able to get hold
and there will be.
And
for that exemption permit, there is. It says a visit from the police.
The police want to check that you indeed do have some means to lock up the breech block, and that there's no major red flags flying.
Yeah, they just want to have a chat.
They want to check that you can fulfil the requirements, and that they don't walk into some crazy person's apartment with all sorts of
stuff that shouldn't
regalia and things and stuff lying around the place. But that is how it is. So, shall we pack it in now?
Yeah, tea's getting cold.
Yeah, I'm getting cold. Thanks for the hat. So there you go. I hope we've gone a long way towards dispelling some of the myths promulgated by The Daily Show and others. If you've actually survived this far, I'm sorry we can't actually reimburse you the time you have lost, your life credits expended on getting this far. If you like the work we do here in Switzerland on Bloke on the Range, and you haven't already supported us on Patreon or any other possibilities, if there are any, please consider doing so. Link in the description below to any active crowdfunding sources at the time of publishing, and see you again sometime. Bye.